Just work with me a little bit. If we're reading 1 Samuel 17 and we're going from verse 50 onwards, just work with me a little bit and let's just go through this journey together. David is a man. He's a young man. Yes, he's been anointed to be king, but he's a man who's spent his life growing up with many brothers, the youngest of all the brothers in the house. He grew up with the sheep and on his father's farm. I mean, he was a boy that grew up in an average family, in an average world, on a farm with brothers, and with a normal kind of family life. So when he conquered a lion and a bear, he conquered it as a man, not as the future anointed king. He just conquered those things as a young man. When he came and stood before Goliath, it was a burning desire of the covenant of God, and God inside of him. It was his burning desire to be able to stand up and confront Goliath. So when we're talking about David here, it's so easy for us to think about David in terms of King David, in terms of the conquering mighty warrior David, because we know the story from the Bible. It's so easy for us to go right past the value that we see in David and the covenant of God, the zeal of God that was burning inside of him as a young man, not as someone that would become the future conqueror for Israel and the king of Israel. He was just a young man who wouldn't tolerate God's covenant being come against by some heathen, by some Philistine. And so it was that passion that drove him. I mean to make the point to you that when you are thinking about a dream that God has given you, about the things that burn in your heart, that burn in your life, that really want you to do something bigger and more and greater, and you see yourself through the lens of your own eyes as a human, as a young woman or a woman, as a young man or as just as a mother or a father, just someone who goes to work every day. David had the same lens. He was just a man. He was just a young man tending sheep, going backwards and forwards. David was a young man. A dream is not something that is unique to all of us. We all have dreams. The big difference is whether you translate the dream into something that you and God work on together, and that you become more certain that I'm standing up for the things that God desires for me to stand up. That you can always be sure of. That kind of dream, God's going to be behind it. He's going to support it. He's always going to be with you. Like I've said in times before, if David had a dream that maybe one day he wanted to be the biggest sheep farmer in all of Israel, well, okay, good dream. But that's not really where God was going to put all of his blessing. God was going to put all of his anointing and authority into just becoming the next biggest sheep farmer, doing better than his brothers ever did, marrying a girl and having a family. That's a noble thing to do. That's a good desire to have. But dreams that God give you need to supersede those things, and they need to be in line with the will of God and the covenant and the order of God. Because when that happens, you can do marvelous, miraculous things that are beyond your human, everyday, average comprehension. And certainly David, when he killed the Philistine and the Philistines saw their champion was defeated, the men of Israel and Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines as far as the entrance of the valley and to the gates of Ekron. I mean, what his dream coming true did was it activated the energy, the skill, all of the resources of the whole army of Israel. And suddenly what was they were afraid of turned into boldness and courage and strength. And suddenly there was a great wealth that could be plundered. There was great resources and energy that could be available to them. Please don't look at your small, humble beginnings of following your dream as something, how am I going to ever achieve anything great? Greatness is between you and God and the way that you work with God. I trust this has been a blessing to you. I'll see you in the next one.